I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to What It Takes. Today, we're chatting with Dallin Huso, the owner and visionary behind Flamingo Pools. If you're from Arizona's East Valley, then you've probably already heard of Flamingo Pools. They're known for making pool ownership stress-free with innovative services and exceptional customer care. But here's the thing. Building a business like this doesn't just happen overnight. Dallin's story is about grit, it's about creativity, and putting the customer at the heart of everything. So we're going to hear how he went from spark to splash and scaling a trusted brand while balancing innovation and leadership. So let's jump in and see what it takes. Hey, Dallin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm
Thank you for
excited
having me.
because I'm in Arizona too, and I know how important our pools are.
Yeah.
So let's get to talking. Let's just start from the beginning. How did Flamingo Pools come to life?
Yeah. So like you said, if you live in Arizona, you know important it is to have a pool. So I was going to college, community college here in the valley, and school just wasn't for me. I was just trying to figure out what to do. And I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you're familiar with that. Yeah. And
Yes,
so someone
yes.
had recommended that to me. I wasn't really a reader either, so not a school guy, not a reader. And but finally I, for whatever reason, I decided to I didn't read it. I listened to the audio version, which is the only way I can, yeah, consume books. But yeah, so after listening to that, it really just kind of changed my entire mindset of like what was possible with my life. And so at that point, I knew that I was going to start a business, but I just didn't know what. And yeah, like you said, living in Arizona my whole life, I know that pretty much everyone has a pool. And if you don't, you got a family member or a neighbor that does, because you can't really survive in the summer here without one. So yeah, I knew it was a business that was in demand. So I bought a pole, a net, and a brush, and yeah, just started knocking doors trying to get clients.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
was there a specific moment that you knew that you wanted to keep on and stay on this path?
Well, I go back and forth every day, it seems like still, honestly. No, just kidding. No, so I guess I did skip one part. I started working for a pool company, just so I could, kind of understand a little bit more of the ins and outs. I was familiar, from a general standpoint, just growing up with a pool. But yeah, I worked for a company just to really understand the chemistry a bit better and make sure I knew what I was talking about when I was, dealing with clients. And I almost quit working with that company and scrapped the whole idea just because I was not enjoying it. But the flip side of that was like, well, what if I can make this like a more enjoyable experience for technicians and create like, something better, something bigger. So that really kind of at one point almost made me stop, but really motivated me to, kind of do that, but a little bit better.
Well, that's actually really interesting that you said that. And I think that's actually a differentiator between
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and people who just kind of jump to the next job or, whatever it is. So,
Right.
talk a little bit about that. Like, what made you want to just start off on your own then? Because it sounds like you stuck with it and kind of learned the ropes and did that. But what was that turning point where you said, hey, like, let me see how I can make this better and different? Because having that idea and actually implementing that idea is two totally different things.
Right. Yeah. For me, I think it came down to a lot of the things that I learned from, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and just the possibilities that I could have with my life if I, own a business. And I knew what I was well, I didn't know what I was getting into, but I knew it was not going to be easy, from what I had read. And so, yeah, I was just kind of committed to the dreams and goals that I had in life. And I knew that, I wasn't going to reach those things by just having a standard 9 to 5 job. So from that point, I know I made the joke that I go back and forth every day, but really just been all in on entrepreneurship since that point, just because I knew that if I wanted to get to where I want to be in life, then that's kind of the road I have to take to get there.
Yeah, but that's actually a very good point. I mean, just because we're doing something business owners or whatever role that you're in, it doesn't mean that you still don't have the same feelings as everybody else that's
Right.
on the outside looking in, or even in
Yeah.
it too. We all have days, even now. I mean, I've been, my company's been around for, gosh, almost a decade now, and
Mm.
I still have moments where I'm like, "Ah, is this even, and then, you just keep moving, you
Right.
keep going. So I think that's really important though, because entrepreneurship and business owning isn't always smooth sailing.
For
So,
sure.
what are some of those early challenges that you faced? How did you push through those to get to where you are now?
Oh gosh, so many of them. I mean, the
Just
first,
pick the exciting ones that you
right,
can share
yeah.
with us.
Yeah, I think the first biggest one is like, okay, I bought the stuff, I got a brand and a logo, and I set up my website. It's like, okay, now what do I do? Like, where's all the clients, right? So just figuring out how to reach people in an efficient way. At the beginning, you're doing a lot of hustling and trying to figure out, how I can find clients without spending a bunch of money, because I didn't really have much of a savings at the time. And so that was a fun challenge to get through. But I think like the hardest challenge was really just like those first few employees. And when you don't know what you don't know what red flags to look for, right? So I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I just knew that I was getting busier and that I needed to hire. So I definitely made some mistakes starting out, unfortunately, but it's kind of a learning, process that everyone goes through as an entrepreneur. So definitely had some headaches, with hiring people and hiring the wrong people, and putting people in the wrong positions. I would say that was the biggest struggle starting off when you're trying to grow a business.
That's actually really, really good kind of reflection because I don't think that you're alone in that. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people um, don't know what they don't know. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just kind of have to try it, but at some point you're going to have to learn from it and
Right.
make some changes and make some adjustments. So talk a little bit about that. Like, what did you do to continue to grow for yourself? Because you're saying that, oh, education wasn't for me, but it really sounds like it kind of is, just not like the formal in school education, because
Correct.
you are continuing to learn and changing and growing. So talk a little bit about some of those things and how you've implemented some of that change and learning from your experience.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll clarify. School education isn't for me sitting at a desk, but like on-site learning or even like podcasts, audiobooks. I love learning in that sense. But yeah, so like, just to stick to kind of the hiring aspect of it, I thought for the longest time that hiring was just something that you had to just kind of get lucky with. And, it was a numbers game that if I hire 10 people, I know that maybe two of them will work out. And for the longest time, I kind of had that mindset. And it wasn't until I had done it enough to be like, okay, there's got to be like a better way than this. There's got to be a, a way to kind of weed out some of these bad people. And so, spoke to people, listened to some audiobooks again, and just did my own, testing and research, and really have found some ways to kind of weed out some of those people to create a job description that attracts the right people, and then create a training plan that sets people up for success. Because I did a lot of blaming, like, oh, these are just bad people, bad potential employees. But at the end of the day, like, I wasn't putting them in the best position to succeed. And so that's been a big thing for me, is just creating a plan for them to get in the business, and be able to succeed from day one, and being there with them, to help them succeed. So that's been big for us in terms of, hiring the right people moving forward.
Oh, I love that. You're speaking my language. Everything you just said there is, I think a lot of people get really surprised in the outliers, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a plan and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't part of the plan and this is outlier." But then you start to see this trend where, well, these outside things that I didn't plan for keep happening.
Right.
And I just keep saying, well, you got to make those things part of the plan. And so
Exactly.
recognizing that, hey, there is actually something to this. We're not just having that numbers game is absolutely one way to approach hiring. I
Mhm.
wouldn't recommend it. And it's way more cost. It bogs you down with all how expensive it actually turns out to be. But if you can figure out, what that is. So let's talk a little bit about like Flamingo Pools
Yeah.
and the brand, the distinct brand identity that you have. How did you come up with it and why was that important to your success?
Yeah, so that was a big thing for me starting off. And it's funny, the more I learned about branding and marketing, the more I'm like, oh wow, I like got really lucky that I picked what I picked. I kind of was on the right track, but I didn't fully understand what I was doing at the time. But all I knew at the time was I wanted to like stand out and be a little different. So when I decided I wanted to start a pool company, started doing a little bit of research and saw that so many pool companies had very similar names and very similar branding. It was all about, clear water or blue water or splash or whatever. They all had like some of those aspects in the name, and they were all blue. Like the colors were blue. It's like, okay, I need to do like a different name and like a different color. So that was my first thought. And then the second thought I had was like, what can I do, to stand out, but that people will associate me with their pool and enjoying their pool. And so was trying to like think around, and I knew that those flamingo floats were pretty popular at the time. This was 2018. They still are, luckily, but I was like, I know a ton of people have these in their pool. And so the idea is, what if I have a name that when people see this float in their pool and they're having a pool party, they associate that with our business. So whether they're a current client or not, that's like a little subtle reminder to them of us. And it's like free branding and marketing for us almost anytime someone has those floats. And so that's where I kind of picked the name, and it's really helped us stand out with our pink trucks, with all of our advertising. I always say that, if I run a Facebook ad and 9 other companies run a Facebook ad and you're a client and you scroll through, 10 of these ads, and 9 of them, it's hard to remember what the name was, but then you see ours, it's this bright pink truck with the flamingo. We have a lot better chance of standing out. And so it's been really good for us.
Absolutely. I can imagine you actually did choose something that was really good. But you also talk about customers a lot. You
Yeah.
say that they're like heroes. So talk to me about treating customers like heroes in their pool ownership journey. Like, what does that look like day to day in your everyday operating your business?
Yeah, I think it's 2 main things. The first is just in our customer service and just our service in general. We try to say that, I say a lot of things, but one of the things that I say is that we're really just a customer service company, or that's what we should be. We just happen to offer pool service, and so everything we do is with the customer in mind. I know it's easy as a business owner to forget that, especially as you continue to grow out of the day to day. It's easy to focus on profits and revenue and all these other little things, which are obviously important, but at the end of the day, if you don't have happy customers, you're not going to have a business for long. And so we always are just trying to put ourselves in the customer's shoes. It's one of our core values. And so every decision we make, we try to think how that affects our customers and what they're going to think about that. And so that's really been beneficial to us for not only growth, but retaining people when they know that we believe in them, and we're trying to put them first. And that's the reason that the company exists. The other thing that I really like to do in terms of focusing on the customer, and like you said, making them the hero, is within our marketing. A lot of people with marketing, it's a lot of scare tactics. It's, this bad thing's going to happen to you and this is why you need us. Where we try to flip that and really make the customer the hero of the story. It's like, hey, you're going to be the one having this, incredible pool experience. Let us just kind of come in and help you on the background. We'll make sure it's taken care of, so you don't have to worry about that, but you're the hero of this story. And so we really try to play that into our marketing. I think that helps us stand out a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too that you've introduced things like mineral treatments, a
Yeah.
quick turnaround estimator. Innovation seems to be something that you're trying to push
Yeah.
in a market or a business that just feels pretty like transactional, right? So
Right.
how do you decide what innovations to bring in and what's been the impact of all of that?
Yeah, it's all about just kind of researching and networking with people and bringing the right people on our team who are kind of tapped into that as well, and just saying, okay, what's new? What can we implement? Going to conferences, things like that, because there's always, new things going on. So we go to those things as much as possible. We're always talking as a team on what we can do different and do to stand out. Like you mentioned, the mineral treatment is a big thing that we offer to our clients that not a lot of other pool companies offer. And so we're just, whatever industry you're in, there's always things that you can do differently. I know it's tricky, especially for home service companies, because it feels so transactional, like you said, to be different and to do something, special, it feels like. But there's always, especially with the way that technology is advancing, I feel like whatever industry you're in, it just takes a little bit of creativity and time to figure out, what's going to work and what's beneficial for your clients. And I think doing that really can help you stand out against most people who aren't even, thinking about that and have it on their radar.
That's great. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your team because you've
Yeah.
talked about, your marketing team, your technicians, different
Yeah.
things. What's your approach to building a group that's just as passionate as you as with the mission that you have?
Yeah. So for me, like, a team is everything. Like, I I would not be anywhere close to where I am right now if it wasn't for the good team we've had. And I've learned that by having the wrong people on my team and seeing what that does to the business. So yeah, we're definitely at a point where I prioritize having team members. And I used to, again, this was a limiting belief in the past, but I used to think that it wasn't possible to have people on the team that really believed in the long-term vision of the business. And I thought everyone was just there for a paycheck and they were going to leave at the first sign of some better opportunity that came up. But I've really learned how to really, focus on the people that we have and make sure that they know that I care about them. and that I'm focused on their goals. And I think that's been the key for me is like, hey, at the end of the day, like how much does an employee really care about, my revenue number, unless it's tied to something that's beneficial for them. And so I really try to understand each team member and what their long-term goals are, both, professionally, but also in their personal life. And we take those and we see how we can tie them into the business where it's like, if we hit these numbers, we're able to help you grow into this position or help provide you X, Y, and Z so you can do this in your personal life. And so when they know that that I care about them and what matters to them, then they kind of flip that and show their care for the business and the growth there.
That's great. And it sounds like you've kind of cracked the code, whether it's customers or your internal team. As long as you're kind of putting them and their needs first, then everything else seems to just fall into place, which
Yeah,
is totally opposite of what you actually think of business to being and what I
exactly.
think corporate America is about today.
Yep.
But I think that also makes you a differentiator. And I think we as small business owners have the opportunity to do stuff like that differently because we get to make those decisions. So that's really cool that you've been able to find that. But let's also talk about some setbacks because I don't think you got to where you are. You've mentioned a couple of raw deals in your hires, but what are setbacks are part of the deal, right? So
Right.
can you share a moment where things didn't go as planned and how you kind of turned that around for you?
Yeah. Obviously there's been a few. I'm trying to think of what would be most beneficial to talk about. I experienced a little bit of burnout like pretty early in the business, probably 2 to 3 years in. And I just, yeah, wanted nothing to do with it at the time. I just hated everything I was doing. Um, and yeah, that was a tough period of time. It took me a little bit. I started doing some other things on the side while the business just kind of, it wasn't growing, but wasn't, yeah, was shrinking a little bit until I really just kind of was able to talk to some people and get some good mentors for me, that helped me at the time. But yeah, and I would attribute that to not really having like a strong why of what I was doing at the time. And I wasn't, yeah, going in a direction that I saw much value in long term because every business is going to experience setbacks, some bigger or some smaller. And if you don't have like a reason for doing those things, it's going to be hard to get through those. And so for me, yeah, I wasn't thinking about like the long-term vision. It was just like, this sucks. I'm going through customers getting upset or employees quitting or working and not feeling like I'm getting enough money for the amount of hours and effort and time I'm putting in. It's like, why am I doing this? Like, is this even really worth it? And so that really was a big struggle for me for a little bit. But yeah, like I said, I was able to just do some networking and connect with some pretty cool mentors that really helped me kind of get out of that rut. And it's been a good couple of years since then.
That's great. Those are all good takeaways. Find your mission so that you can get your why
Yeah.
and get yourself a mentor because you can't do it alone. And
Yeah.
you just turned out to be quite the student, mister. Starting off saying, oh, that's just not for me. But yeah, let's talk then about our signature question because I think this goes directly into it. Our podcast is called What It Takes. So, I mean, obviously, you've shared some really great insights into what it takes, but what would you say it takes to run a business and be successful at it the way that you have?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to what I just said is having like a super strong why and a reason for what you're doing. And whatever you think it is, I would like try to take that and push yourself and go a step or two deeper. Like you want money, but like why do you want that? You want freedom. Like why do you want that? And figure out like what you really want out of that. And I think without that, business is not easy at all times, and you're definitely going to go through some hard times, some lonely times, some times where you're wondering why you're doing it and regretting all your decisions. And so if you don't have like that long-term vision, not just for the business but for yourself, I don't think that you'll make it through. And so for a while I didn't have that, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through for a while. But once you have that long-term vision, then it helps you get some clarity around which goals you're setting and the type of goals you're setting. Because for a while I was setting goals just to set goals, just because they seemed like the right things to do. And I would reach the goals, but they didn't really move me towards that long-term vision. So I wasn't really getting any satisfaction out of it. And so having that strong why, and remembering it, whether it's through, a quote or a vision board or, your wallpaper on your phone, having things to remember that by. And so you can set goals to achieve that, has been the biggest thing for me in terms of being able to push through the hard times and just, yeah, grow as much as I can to get to where I want to be.
Such great wisdom. Thank you for sharing that. So what's next for Flamingo Pools? Any big plans or projects that you're excited about?
Nothing crazy. We're just, yeah, putting our heads down and continuing to grow. 2024 was an awesome year for us. And yeah, just continuing to grow the team. For me personally, I guess my biggest focus is doing the things that I love within the business, which is marketing. And so I've just been really growing the team where marketing is the only thing that I have to focus on. And so we're getting close to that, but want to be at the point at the end of the year where I'm just kind of the marketing guy and the idea guy for the business. So that's what I love doing. It's been super fun to make that my main focus lately. And yeah, I think as long as we can stick on that trail, we'll just continue to grow.
Well, congratulations. As somebody who sees that day in and out of business owners, that's a huge step to get
Yeah.
to. So that's a great goal for 2025. So that's a wrap for today's episode of What It Takes. Dallin, thank you so much for sharing your journey from building a standout brand to creating a business that truly puts the customer first. I think what stood out the most to me is just how intentional you've been about both the innovation and the relationships, whether it's your customers or your internal team.
Mhm.
It's just such a great reminder for all of us that success isn't just about the what, but sometimes it's about how you do it and why you're doing it. So define your why and look to that long-term vision for it. So if you want to learn more about Dallin and Flamingo Pools, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find us online. Our website's azflamingopools.com. If you're on Instagram, check us out at Flamingo Pools. And yeah, we're always posting some fun content over there. And then I'm on Instagram as well at Dallin the Pool Guy. And I'm just kind of documenting like the behind the scenes and the growth of the company there. So if you're interested in more of the back end, you can check me out there as well.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this conversation, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with a friend who needs a little inspiration. So until next time, keep chasing what it takes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.